Hello, my crafty friends. Thank you for joining me today. This is the process tutorial that was done on Sunday, the 13th of March, 2022. And we made a flip-flap shutter card. Now, I have gone ahead already and done some pieces here already, but what I will do is run through the measurements with you. All of these measurements are on my Facebook page in the Zoom event, and you'll be able to find them there for each event. So you need to start with a card base that is 10 inches by 7, and you fold that in half and make a normal 5 by 7 card. And we're going to be working in the landscape. Then you need a base layer here, this pink layer, that is 6 5/8 by 4 3/4. The paper layer on top of that is 6 3/8 by 4 1/2. And then the yellow layer on top of that is 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. So I've already gone ahead and attached all of those. They're just mats and layers. You didn't need to see me cut and attach those. So they're just mats and layers. So this is the bottom of the shutter part, and then we need to make a frame and the actual shutter pieces, and then we layer paper to those. So what we will do is make the frame with you, and we will do the little shutter flaps as well, and then we'll just finish it off with our paper layers. Now, to make the frame, you do need to have sturdy cardstock. So what I'm going to do is attach 2 pieces of cardstock together, and that will just give me a bit more thickness to that, because when you pull the shutter out, it needs to have the thickness to keep it all together. And you'll see that as we go through. So the easiest way with the frame is 5/8 of an inch all the way around. So what you can do, what I will do, is I'm just going to lay down some color. Sorry, not color. I'm going to lay down some glue here that is no wider than 5/8 and attach them together. And then I'm going to, with my craft knife, cut out. And so that will cut them out together. Now, I'm also going to probably use the insert of this to make my third shutter flap, because I've only got 2 there, and I can should be able to get the third one out of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach these. And like I said, you need to make sure that you've got that you're not gluing it more than 5/8 of an inch if you want to use those 2 offcuts as single pieces. So just going to run around with my glue. Oops, this one's deciding it doesn't want to work. So long as you don't, if you're doing it this way, just make sure that you're not doing it any wider than 5/8 of an inch. And that way then, you know, you'll keep 2 pieces that are normal thickness to use elsewhere. Right. So these pieces are both exactly the same. And they're exactly the same as this piece here. And that was 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. So I've just done that now to get my layer. So this is going to be the frame and sits over the top of that. So just let that dry a little bit. And then we need to get our ruler and a pencil. And we're going to mark up the 5/8 of an inch for our frame, and then cut that out with a craft knife. Now you could do this with a cutter, but I always want to make sure that, you know, if you don't have those sort of tools, like you might have a trimmer that you can't do this to cut out frames with. So I'll show you how. You're just going to mark in 5/8 of an inch. Oops, that's centimeters, so better not be marking on that side. So 5/8 of an inch, you just want a little mark in on both sides, and then down the bottom as well. And then you want to mark in on that line there as 5/8. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a frame. And then use my craft knife to cut that out. That's 5/8. And you could just do, you know, draw all the lines in, but this will just save you having to rub out all the rest of it. So then I'm just joining up my dots. And the last one. And so what we're going to do, the outer part will be the frame, and we're going to cut along here and cut this out. So just using your craft knife and a ruler. I always find it better to use a metal ruler. That way then if your knife slips, you're not cutting into your ruler. Now you want a nice sharp craft knife as well, and use a self-healing mat. Less pressure, more passes, you've got less chance of breaking your blade and less chance of hurting yourself. So just go around on all your sides, follow your pencil line. Now, as I said, if you've got thick cardstock already, you may just get away with just that one layer. But this piece here, it's what everything attaches to. So you do want to make sure that you've got enough thickness there that it doesn't buckle. And you can feel when it's gone all the way through. If you're cutting into a self-healing mat, it gets very smooth on the last part, and that means you're cutting into the mat itself. Right, now I think I've missed the corner on one of these, but I'll just snip that with my scissors. Yeah, this one here, I thought I had. So just snip into the corner and cut that. And when you pull these two, when you finished your cutting, you'll find if you haven't glued further than 5/8, those two pieces in the middle will just fall out as two separate pieces of cardstock, and then you can use those in, you know, a project somewhere else. One little bit here. Right. So that's, you know, you've got two more pieces there. So rub out your pencil marks. Now you could, I could turn that over and use that side. With the close to my heart cardstock, they've got a very good system. So you have one darker side, which is your true color, and then on the other side of that, so that's that side there together, but on the other side is one shade lighter. So it's like getting two sheets of paper in one. It's really cool how they do that. So I want to use the darker side because I've used the darker side there. So, you know, I could have drawn my frame on the other side and then not have to worry about any pencil marks. So this just will sit just straight over the top. It's the same size, like I said. Now I want to try and get another one of these sizes, which is my shutter flaps. And the shutter flaps are Let me have a look. They are 4 1/4 by 2 1/8. So 4 1/4 by 2 1/8. And I might just do it that way and cut the pencil line off. So you need 3 of those. So 4 1/8 and 3 by 2 1/8. So they're my 3 shutter. Now we're going to do a bit of scoring onto those. And then you have the pieces that sit on the front of your shutter. So you'll have 3 on the front, 3 on the back. So these pieces are 2 3/4 by 1 3/8, and you need 6 in total. So 3 for the front and 3 for the back. And then when you open up the shutter, the pieces that are in between each shutter, you need to fill in those as well. And they are 4 inches by 1.5 inches. And you need 2, and then the third one is 4 inches by 2, and I'll explain why that one's a bit different as we get to it. Right, so with the shutters, we're going to do a bit of scoring and a bit of cutting, and it's the same for each one. So essentially we have to score 5/8 of an inch. We're going to score only down one long side and across 2 short sides, and it's at 5/8 of an inch. Now, because my trimmer at the moment doesn't go far enough over this side to be able to work that out, these are 2 1/8. So 5/8 of an inch in is going to put me at 1.5. So I've just counted up those little marks. So they're 1/8 of an inch. So you just count 5, and it means I'm scoring at 1.5. So only one of these sides gets that 1.5, and then we turn it round, and this is 4 1/8. So again, to get a 5/8 inch score line, I'm going to line up at 3.5, turn it round, and line again up at 3.5. Now, we've currently got that. I need to also now get a score line that's 5/8 of an inch, but just down to that score line. So again, you're just going to line up at 1.5. But you're only going to score down to that score line. You're not going to go beyond that. And so you end up with that. And so we do that on all of these. So I'll just quickly go through and do that. And then bring it back so you can get those 2 shorter score lines. So that's lining up at the 1.5 mark, doing your first score line all the way down, lining up at the 3.5 mark, and then turning it around, lining up again at 3.5, and then lining up at the 1.5 again, but this time only down to that first score line. And so you will end up with 3. Exactly the same. Now we need to remove the flap here. This is all going to get removed. We want to cut that away. All of the cutting is done on your long side. We do not cut anything on the short sides. All of it is done on the long side. And you need to be reasonably accurate here. Otherwise, your shutters are not going to be able to spin and turn correctly in the frame. So what you want to do, you want to cut away the score line. So when I say that, we're going to cut on the left-hand side of that score line. And then on the right side, we cut on the right-hand side. And then we cut at the top of the score line here. So we're completely getting rid of that score line. And it's important that you do get rid of that score line, because it is what will catch on your frame if you don't go up far enough. Now just bring that one out the way and cut up on the top of that score line. Could also do that in your trimmer. So I've just got a little bit of score line still there, so let me just get rid of that. So you can see I've taken out the score line as well. And then we turn it round and we're going to cut these score lines out, just leaving us a little flap. So we want to cut either side of the score line. To cut it out completely. And you're just left with this little slither here. Just cut that out. And so that's what you're left with there. So you're just completely cutting the score line out. And you do that on all three of those. So I'll run through that again. We're completely getting rid of the score line. So go to the left of the score line, up to the top of the score line. On the right hand side, you go to the right of the score line and up to the top of the score line. Move this flap out the way and then cut up the top of that score line, cutting all of the score line completely away. It's a little bit hard to see my score line there. And then we turn it round and we're going to cut out completely this score line here. Cut away that little bit there. Oops. And then same on the other side. Cutting that score line completely out. Like I said, pay attention to this part here, because otherwise if you don't cut those score lines out completely, you won't be able to get your shutters to move within that frame. So the last one, cutting on either side of that score line right up to the top score line, move the flap out the way. And then just cutting off that whole piece all together, turn it round and then cut out that score line. Cut that little piece out. Whoops. Right, so that's the three. Get rid of those there. Keep those because I do need to do a little pull tab onto that. Right, so this gives us our shutters. They go that way there. So the cutout piece is on the left. So when we attach these, we're attaching them to the base part of this card. And so we're attaching these tabs here on the left. So this is the bit that is being cut out, is on the left. And we attach the tabs into the top and the bottom corner. And we make sure that it's all lined up. So I'm just going to burnish down all of these tabs and make sure that they're all nicely burnished and that they are square to the sides. Because that will also make sure that your shutter opens out the right, and it's just going to flow smoothly. Just burnish all those, and we're just doing the little tabs. We don't do this here. That was just a guide in the score lines. So I'm just making sure my edges all line up together. I hope everyone's had a great fortnight and that you're not too affected by all the rain. There's been some terrible flooding throughout Queensland and New South Wales. I really feel for those people who have lost everything to floods, and not only once, they've lost it multiple times in the last couple of weeks. It just must be so heartbreaking for them. Right. So they're all done. Okay, so with the cutout piece to the left, we're going to attach glue to the left-hand tabs. Making sure you're lining up top and bottom, and that these tabs go right into the corner. Right, now just give your glue a little bit of chance to dry. And then you just move these tabs on the right away. And again, with the cutout piece on your left, you're going to join these up, but with just a slight little gap. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. So I haven't butted right up. I've just got a slight little gap, so that when they move, they will not interfere with each other. So you just want to have a slight little offset there. So again, we're only going to put glue onto the left flap. Just lining that up, just keeping an eye on here, make sure it's all lined up down there, and make sure your flap doesn't go over the edge. Give that a minute to dry, and it should just all neatly come up and down. Oops, so moved that flap. Get that up. And then the third one, exactly the same. Move those right-hand little flaps away. Make sure that you've got your cutout piece to the left, and just slightly, not butt it up, but just a slight bit away from the one that you just did. And then we're just gluing again onto those left flaps. So lining it up again, making sure that it's all lined up on those bottom edges. Make sure your flap lines up. You don't want anything to come over those edges, because otherwise you'll see it when you put your frame on. Right, so with those now in place, now would be the good time to actually put on your pieces that are going to be on these. Just make sure that they all do open out properly, which they do. You can give them a little bit of burnishing up if you want. So bringing them over again, and then putting on your pieces. And I've already, I had done a bit of an oopsie here previously. So these are actually going to get covered up, and then I will need to, I will need to cut another set for the back end there. So this is the result of my previous attempt. And I thought, well, rather than waste it, I'll just cut them off and start again. So these are just going to layer up on the front here. So these are my front ones. And probably for the purpose of the video, I probably won't cut these internal ones. You'll be able to see what needs to happen there. Last one. So that's my front ones. Actually, I will cut them, and then you'll see the completed lot. So that's the back end of my paper that I just used then, and it's just a grid. So these are 2 3/4 by 1 3/8, and you need 3 of those as well. So 1 3/8 by 2 3/4. So 1 3/8. It doesn't really matter if these don't, line up perfectly with the lines. Worried about that, then I'd suggest you use a more plainer color or something in a pattern that doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me that they won't join. And so these are the ones for on the other side. So if you just flip them over, oops, and these just sit in here. Now I want to do a little bit of stamping. So I'm going to stamp them first before I put them on, because I feel that would be a little bit easier. So I'm going to be putting on a cake. Let's get a block here. And I want my cake to be in orange. Oops, I have a fan off to the side here, so I'm trying to compete with that. Nice. So clean that stamp. I'll put it back on. And then I want to stamp U. The word is a U, so I've got some stamping to do on the frame as well. This is going to be in black. You might notice this little white piece underneath my work. With every stamp set you get, it has a little piece of just a thin piece of foam, really, just so that you get a little bit of sponginess, and it helps you to get a better stamping, just to have that pressure on them with these acrylic stamps. And I want this one, which is Happy Birthday. And again, this one's going to be in black. Nice. I have learnt to put these clear stamps straight away back onto their little thing, because otherwise you will lose them. It took me an hour to find you yesterday. That stamp there took me an hour to find that. Now I need to also stamp a little arrow. Just find that stamp set. Oh, here it is with my arrow. I'm just going to do it on this yellow, and I want that to be in black. Is that wide enough? Oh, it's just going to be wide enough, I think. Trying to use up every bit of my scrap, so that's just wide enough, so that's all right. And I will cut that out. And there's a tiny, tiny little pull, the word pull in one of my stamp sets as well, which is could get lost very easily. But it just lets the recipient know that they're going to pull that little tab. There we go. Nice. As I said, I'm competing with a fan here off to the side. You can't see. Everything's blowing away. Always make sure you clean your stamps before you put them back on. Like I said, that's such a tiny little stamp. It's at risk of. So that's just that little one there, Paul. Right, and then around the frame, I'm going to do, and I'll cut this out in a minute, I want to do some dots. There is a stamp in this other set here, this one here, and I want to do some dots. But because I've got some pink in there, I'm going to do the wild berry, because that's the coordinating colour for that bottom cardstock. But I also want to do, I'm going to put this on here as well. And that's, you know what gets better with age. So I actually will stamp that first before I do any of that. So that's just going to go there, and that's going to be stamped in black. Put that lid on my glue before it dries. If my head is getting in the way, I apologize for that. It's just so that I can be over it and make sure it's all straight. I didn't use that stamping thing, so that's which I should have. So so that will be, you know what gets better with age, and then you open it up and it says you. And then I'm going to do that stamping on the around that frame, and that's going to be in the pink. Now I might stick this under here. So I'm just sort of centering that. It doesn't matter if it overlaps, that's fine. It's just all dots. It just gives the frame a bit of definition. clean that one off. Right. So I think I've got all my bits and bobs now. So I need to cut out my little pool. I love this stamp. I've been using it heaps. Always wanted to have a stamp in my set that says pull, or, you know, like an arrow that is directional, so people could see that that's what I wanted them to do. All right, so now let's get these pieces stuck down first before we put that frame on. So I want my U to be here, and then I want my cake into the middle. So remembering my frame says, you know what gets better with age, U, and then my happy birthday here. So we'll go ahead and add glue to the backs of these. Now you can't put too much depth onto this side, otherwise it will start to interfere with all of the mechanisms. So this layer has to be reasonably flat. So you get just a little border around from this size. Cake goes in the middle. And the good thing about using double-sided paper is, you know, because this is all the same color, it's all in the same collection, you know that all those papers are all going to match each other. You know, they're in the same sort of color family. They're not going to compete with each other. So that's a good advantage of using double-sided paper as well, which I love. And this is such a bright and cheery collection. It's just gorgeous. And then my happy birthday down here. Make sure you don't go over any of the score lines. And then you need to put these middle pieces in, and this end piece here. So these, again, are going to fill in the gaps, and I have used the same, oops, let me drop my glue. I've used the same one, the same side as what I used on the front flaps. So it's sort of going to give an alternating look. But like I said, you know, that green picks up in this green. So, you know, it doesn't really matter that you've got different colors. They're all in the same collection, and they're all going to be, you know, coordinating together. And that's the advantage of using double-sided paper. They all coordinate. So just run some glue around these ones. And this is you know, it's not, when I cut this, I didn't pay attention to the orientation. But again, it doesn't really matter, you know, it doesn't matter that that's sideways. It doesn't take away from the card. And then the last piece is a little bit wider, so that when you put this one on, you don't have a wide gap. So when it all sits down and you've got your frame, like this one here, you won't see because this will all come across. But I've done a wider one here so that you don't get to see any of the paper at the bottom of it. It just completely covers it, and it makes that whole side look as though it's just, you know, like you've just done a border around it. So that's why this one is just that little bit wider than the other two. So just put this one on with a little border around. across. Right, so now we can put our frame on. So when we put our frame on, we need to bring the flaps, the right-hand little flaps over, because we need to be able to put glue onto the underside of those. So just put glue onto here, just onto the little flaps. And then attach that frame, and it's just going to sit, it's the same size as that paper in the bottom. So you're just going to make sure it just all lines up. Give it a moment to grab onto that bottom layer. And then your little pull goes on the side, and I just put glue onto just this part here, not the whole thing, because it's got to hang over. So I'm just going to put it there where I double stamped. And so it stays within your 5 inches as well. So in Australia, a 5x7, sorry about that light, that's coming in from the back there. A 5x7 card will still post as $1. And so that's just your normal, you know, inside. And you can tart up the inside as much as you want to as well. And so this just flips across. And so you see that same, and then when you get to there, it's green. How cool is that? You could, you know, you could have had plain here if you've got a happy birthday or something that goes vertically. You could have done that as well. And like I said, on the front, you know, knock your socks off with embellishments, because it doesn't matter how much you put as embellishments. It's only on this bottom one here that you can't. But what I might do, you know, is I might put some glitter glue onto here, onto those sparkles, and a little bit onto those, the flames. You know, you could have colored that in as well. There's lots that you still can do. So who knows what gets better with age? Ooh, happy birthday. How good is that? I just love this card. So that's a flip flap shutter card. I hope you enjoyed making that if you were in the class, and if you're watching this as the replay, thank you. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up, and click the little notification bell so you never miss another video that I put up. My Facebook page, if you do want to join in on these Zoom classes, they are free for everybody to join in. My Facebook page is Crafty Fun with Mary, and go into the events tab, and you will see all the events for the Zoom classes there already. And then I pop up a little materials list on the Wednesday leading into the weekend that we make these cards. These are done every fortnight. And like I said, these classes are free. They were started in March of 2020 when the whole of Australia went into lockdown. And I wanted to make sure that as crafters, we still had some connection with other people. So these classes will always remain free. But if you did want to support me and my little crafty business, jump over to maryhowe.closetomyheart.com.au, and you can check out all the products that I use on that website there. It will also give you some information on the VIP program, where you can save 15% in credits for future purchases. But yeah, so these are free, like I said, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to post a photo of any of the cards that you make as well, I love to see what people have also made and the designs they did on theirs. You can jump onto my Facebook group, which is Crafty Fun with Mary, FB group for Facebook group, and post a picture of what you made. I'd love to see it. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you can join me in the next Crafty Zoom class in a fortnight's time. Until then, bye for now.